What if some of the most powerful inventions in history didn't fail, but were erased? A car that ran on water, a machine that supposedly destroyed cancer cells with sound frequencies, a tower designed to give free electricity to the entire planet. These weren't science fiction ideas. They were real experiments that once shocked engineers, governments, and entire industries. But every time one of these inventions appeared, something strange happened. Laboratories burned down, patents vanished, projects were suddenly cancelled, and in some cases, the inventors themselves died under mysterious circumstances. One engineer publicly demonstrated a water-powered car and later collapsed in a parking lot, screaming that he had been poisoned. Another inventor built a machine that could generate unlimited wireless energy. But his funding was cut the moment investors realized they couldn't charge people for it. Again and again, the same pattern appears. A breakthrough emerges. It threatens powerful industries. And then it disappears from history almost overnight. But the evidence never completely vanished. Forgotten prototypes, classified patents, strange experiments buried in archives, fragments of inventions that could have changed the world forever. So the real question isn't whether these technologies existed. The real question is why we never got to use them. In this video, you're about to see 32 inventions that were too powerful, too disruptive, or too dangerous to survive. Some could have given us unlimited energy. Some could have transformed transportation. And some raise a disturbing possibility that the future humanity was supposed to have was quietly taken away. Let's open the files. 1. Imagine a car that runs on water instead of gasoline. In the 1990s, engineer Stanley Meyer claimed he built a vehicle that could split tap water into hydrogen fuel and power an engine. But scientists later argued his system violated basic energy laws, and courts ruled the technology was fraudulent, which is why it never became a real product. 2. Nikola Tesla believed electricity could be transmitted wirelessly across the planet through massive towers like Wardenclyffe. But the project collapsed when investors realized free wireless energy could not be easily measured or sold, and the funding was cut before the system could be fully built. 3. In 1989, two chemists announced they had achieved cold fusion in a simple laboratory experiment that could theoretically provide limitless clean energy. But when other laboratories failed to reproduce the results, the scientific community largely dismissed the claim, pushing the research to the margins. 4. The United States government can legally hide certain inventions under the Invention Secrecy Act if they are considered a national security risk, which is why thousands of patents remain classified and never reach the public market. 5. In the 19th century, engineers discovered that the natural electrical potential in soil could generate power through devices called earth batteries. But the technology produced very small amounts of energy and was eventually replaced by more efficient generators and electrical grids. 6. Some modern researchers are exploring the idea of capturing energy from neutrinos, tiny particles that constantly pass through the Earth and everything on it, but the technology to efficiently convert their motion into usable electricity is still experimental and extremely difficult to scale. 7. Imagine buying an electric car you absolutely love, and then one day the company shows up with a tow truck to take it away. In the late 1990s, General Motors released the EV1, a sleek electric vehicle that drivers adored for being silent, fast and completely gasoline-free. But only a few years later, the program was abruptly cancelled. The cars were forcibly taken back from customers, and most of them were crushed in a desert scrapyard because the technology and market were not yet ready for mass adoption. 8. In 1941, Henry Ford revealed a strange new car and then hit it with a sledgehammer in front of reporters. The body didn't dent the way steel would because it was made from plant fibers, including hemp, a lightweight material Ford believed could transform car manufacturing. But the idea never moved beyond prototypes as wartime priorities and industrial supply chains pushed the industry toward traditional metal vehicles. 9. It sounds unbelievable today, but in the early 1900s, electric cars were actually everywhere. They were quiet, clean, and easy to drive, while gasoline cars were loud machines that required dangerous hand cranking. Yet once cheap oil, mass production, and longer driving ranges appeared, gasoline engines quickly took over the roads, and electric vehicles nearly vanished for a century. 10. In the 1970s, a young inventor named Tom Ogle stunned reporters by driving a large Ford Galaxie hundreds of miles while barely using any gasoline at all. His experimental system vaporized fuel into a fine mist that dramatically increased efficiency. But the design proved difficult to reproduce consistently and never reached mass production, leaving the legendary 100-mile-per-gallon engine as one of the great what-ifs in automotive history. 11. In 2008, a small Japanese company called Genepax shocked the world by unveiling what looked like a car powered by nothing but water. The company claimed a special membrane system could extract hydrogen from liquid to produce electricity, but engineers pointed out the process still required external energy, and the startup quickly disappeared after financial and technical problems shut the project down. 12. And perhaps the strangest idea of all was a car that didn't burn fuel at all. Engineers experimented with vehicles powered by compressed air stored in tanks that could push pistons and move the car with zero emissions. But because compressed air holds far less energy than gasoline or batteries, the technology struggled to compete with other engines and remained mostly experimental. 13. Imagine pulling a rusted lump of metal from the bottom of the sea and discovering it's actually a computer built more than 2,000 years ago. That's exactly what happened when divers found the Antikythera mechanism in a Greek shipwreck, a complex system of bronze gears capable of predicting eclipses and planetary movements with stunning accuracy, a level of engineering so advanced that nothing similar appeared again for over 1,000 years. 14. Now imagine a weapon so terrifying it could burn enemy ships even while floating on water. The Byzantine Empire possessed a secret substance known as Greek fire, a mysterious chemical weapon that erupted into unstoppable flames and continued burning on the surface of the sea. And because the formula was guarded so closely that only a handful of people knew it, the secret vanished forever when the empire collapsed. 15. For centuries, warriors carried blades so sharp they could slice a silk scarf drifting through the air. These were swords forged from Damascus steel, famous for their incredible strength, flexibility, and flowing patterns in the metal. Yet, despite modern laboratories, microscopes, and advanced metallurgy, the exact ancient process that created these legendary blades has never been perfectly recreated. 16. Some of the strangest descriptions of ancient technology appear in texts from India that speak of flying machines called vimanas. These writings describe metallic aerial vehicles powered by mysterious engines that could travel through the sky and even into space. And while historians debate whether these passages are symbolic myths or lost technological knowledge, the detailed mechanical descriptions continue to fascinate engineers and researchers today. 17. In a Roman museum sits a cup that looks ordinary in daylight until light shines through it. The Lycurgus cup suddenly transforms from deep green to glowing red because ancient Roman craftsmen mixed microscopic particles of gold and silver into the glass, unknowingly creating a form of nanotechnology nearly 2,000 years before modern science discovered it. 18. And perhaps the most puzzling artifact of all was found buried in the deserts of Iraq, a simple clay jar containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod. When scientists recreated the device and filled it with acidic liquid, it produced electricity, leading many researchers to believe the mysterious Baghdad battery may have been capable of generating electric current nearly 2,000 years ago, long before the age of modern power. 19. Imagine discovering a sound so precise it could destroy cancer cells, the way a powerful voice shatters glass. In the 1930s, scientist Royal Rife claimed he had built a microscope powerful enough to observe living viruses and then eliminate them using specific electromagnetic frequencies, demonstrations that shocked doctors of the time. But after intense controversy, his equipment was seized, his laboratory was dismantled, and the research disappeared into one of the most debated mysteries in medical history. 20. Now, picture a strange glowing glass wand that crackles with purple electricity, while a doctor slowly passes it over a patient's body. In the early 1900s, millions of people used devices called violet rays that sent high-frequency electrical pulses through the skin and were believed to treat infections, pain, and dozens of illnesses. But as modern medicine demanded stricter scientific proof, the devices were banned and vanished from clinics almost overnight. 21. More than 2,000 years ago, a paranoid king tried to solve one of humanity's oldest fears: poisoning. King Mithridates of Pontus spent years exposing himself to tiny doses of toxins while developing a legendary antidote known as Mithridatium, a complex mixture said to protect against nearly every poison in existence. Yet after his death, the exact formula was lost, and later physicians could only guess at the recipe from scattered ancient texts. 22. And perhaps the most mysterious lost medicine of the ancient world was a single plant so powerful the Romans valued it like gold. It was called silphium, a rare herb from North Africa used as both a powerful medicine and one of the most effective natural contraceptives ever recorded. But demand became so enormous that the plant was harvested into extinction, leaving historians to wonder whether one of the greatest pharmaceutical discoveries in history disappeared forever. 23. Imagine a weapon so powerful it could shoot down entire fleets of aircraft without firing a single bullet. Near the end of his life, Nikola Tesla claimed he had designed a device he called a death ray, a particle beam weapon that could project concentrated energy across hundreds of miles and destroy enemy planes in mid-air. But after Tesla died in a New York hotel room in 1943, government agents immediately seized his papers, and the full details of the design were never revealed to the public. 24. During World War II, the United States military secretly tested one of the strangest weapons ever imagined: tiny flying arsonists. In a classified program called Project X-Ray, thousands of bats were fitted with miniature incendiary bombs and released over test buildings, where they would hide in rooftops before the timers exploded. And during one demonstration, the bats accidentally burned down an entire military base, forcing the project to be abruptly cancelled. 25. In the 1950s, engineers in the United States and Canada began building a machine that looked exactly like something from a UFO sighting. It was called the Avrocar, a circular aircraft powered by a massive central fan designed to hover and move in any direction like a flying saucer. But despite years of testing, the craft proved unstable and the program was officially shut down, though some believe the technology quietly influenced later experimental aircraft. 26. Decades before modern brain implants and neural interfaces, military researchers were already exploring a shocking idea: controlling machines with pure thought. In the 1970s, DARPA funded early experiments that connected brain signals to computers, allowing test subjects to move objects on screens using nothing but neural activity. Research that laid the foundation for the brain-computer interfaces scientists are still developing today. 27. And perhaps the most controversial experiments of all involved the possibility of defeating gravity itself. Throughout the mid-20th century, several researchers claimed that powerful electric fields could create a phenomenon known as electrogravitics, where charged objects appeared to generate lift without wings or engines. But the experiments were difficult to reproduce, and the idea remains one of the most mysterious and debated frontiers in experimental physics. 28. Imagine buying a light bulb that never burns out for decades. In the early 1900s, light bulbs could actually last for years, until a secret agreement known as the Phoebus Cartel brought together major manufacturers who deliberately limited bulb lifespans to about 1,000 hours, ensuring that people would keep buying replacements again and again. 29. Now imagine a violin so perfect that even modern science still struggles to recreate it. The legendary instruments built by Antonio Stradivari more than 300 years ago produce a rich and haunting sound that musicians and engineers have tried to duplicate for centuries. Yet the exact combination of wood treatment, varnish, and craftsmanship that created these masterpieces remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in music. 30. Long before electric subways and high-speed trains, engineers in the 19th century experimented with a bizarre idea: moving trains using nothing but air. These pneumatic railways pushed passenger cars through tunnels using giant pressure systems like a massive vacuum tube. And while early demonstrations worked surprisingly well, technical challenges and maintenance problems eventually caused the strange transportation system to disappear from cities. 31. Visitors to the 1900 World's Fair in Paris witnessed something that looked like it came from the future. Instead of walking across the city, thousands of people stepped onto giant moving sidewalks that carried them smoothly along elevated tracks. A revolutionary transport system that could move crowds quickly and efficiently. Yet after the exhibition ended, the entire structure was dismantled, and the idea faded from urban design for decades. 32. And perhaps one of the strangest forgotten technologies, appeared in the 1960s when engineers built the first video telephones. The system allowed people to see each other live while talking across the country, a breakthrough decades ahead of its time. But the technology failed commercially because people found the idea of being seen on camera during everyday calls awkward and intrusive, leaving the world to rediscover the concept many years later through modern video calls. Think about what you just saw. Cars that ran on water, ancient machines that worked like computers 2,000 years ago, weapons that could change the balance of war, medicines that might have destroyed deadly diseases. And yet, again and again, the same thing happens. A breakthrough appears, and then it disappears. Sometimes the technology was too early, sometimes it was too dangerous, and sometimes it threatened industries worth billions. But here's the real question. If these inventions existed once, how many others have already been discovered and then quietly forgotten? Because history shows something strange. The future isn't always invented once. Sometimes it has to be rediscovered. So tell me in the comments, which of these inventions shocked you the most? And which one should exist in the world today? And if you want to uncover more forgotten discoveries and hidden pieces of history, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Because the deeper you look into the past, the more it starts to feel like the future was already invented long ago.